Today is a very special day for Zelda fans everywhere, as Nintendo has just released their latest game in the series, Tears of the Kingdom. But before I delve into that new Zelda adventure over on my live stream, I want to take a look back at all the previous major Zelda releases, and rank them based on my experiences. Look, I've completed almost every Zelda game, so if you're wondering which Zelda games are worth your time in 2023, you've come to the right place. Keep in mind, this list is all my personal opinion, and if you want to share yours, let me know in the comments below. That being said, let's get into it. First up, this is way before my time. Well, maybe not way before my time. Way before my time is Pong, alright? Thank God I didn't have to play Pong when I was a kid. Yeah, I think this was 1986, right? It's classic. 1980. I guess I could have just looked at the year right here, right? Like, okay, sure. This is the game that started it all, okay? Classic moment, by the way. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Look how triumphant he is with his derpy face. Look at that derpy face. First Zelda game. I mean, what are we looking at here? It had to start somewhere, you know? If I recall correctly, Miyamoto, the guy in Nintendo that created Zelda, he was very inspired by exploration as a kid, getting out, seeing caves, pretending he was a warrior, I guess, like Link. And he wanted to make a game like that. And this is the result of his creativity. And I suppose some other brilliant Japanese developers too. There was a lot of games that copied the style, top-down, destroy enemies like this. First Zelda game, by the way, look at my tier list here. We have the tiers God tier, damn good, meh, trash, or I didn't play it. And I gotta tell you right now, I have played many of these games on this list, okay? This one I did play. My problem with this game, now, I don't know if it was just like part of the times, but this game is very cryptic, okay? You would think like there's people around, you could talk to people and they'll tell you where to go and what to do. Or, there's hints in the game about certain walls that you might be able to bomb. Or, even in Link to the Past or later on Zelda games, if there's a place in the wall that you can break through, you just have to tap your sword on there and it'll make a noise. It'll be like, oh, no, that's a solid wall. What about over here? Oh yeah, that's a bomb, and then you put a bomb there and then it blows the wall open. In this game, they didn't have that, okay? As far as I remember. In this game, like, you just had to kind of guess and check. The alternative to that was to buy a strategy guide from Nintendo. And you're probably asking yourself, hey, Fox, why don't you just go on the internet and look up the map of the dungeon? It'll be easy. You don't have to pay anybody for, to beat the game. Well, guess what? Sorry to break this to you, everyone, but the internet wasn't around for normies back then. They didn't have websites you could just go to look this stuff up. The only way you were going to find out a secret in a video game is to find it yourself, which a lot of times was impossible or very tedious. You could do it, like, you could bomb every wall and try to find it. Or you get a Nintendo Power or a strategy guide. Or you have a friend that has a strategy guide and you have him tell you. There was a lot of cryptic stuff in video games that I learned about through people. Like, I remember in Super Mario RPG, when I was a kid, before I had the ability to solve puzzles or critically think about things, there was the puzzle in the sunken ship where you had to figure out the letters to unlock a door. But as a kid, we couldn't figure this out. But some kid at karate told me that what the password was, and then after we put it in, we could beat the rest of the game, So all this being said, it's the first Zelda game. It really is something great. It's just a little bit too cryptic. Now, when I rate these, I'm gonna rate them, like, for the time they came out, Like, we're not gonna compare this to, like, Ocarina of Time, because it's different technology, right? I'd say, for the original Zelda, time it came out, what was your alternatives, It must have been pretty damn good. Even with all the cryptic BS. You gotta take what you got back in the day. Zelda II, The Adventure of Link. A very controversial title in the Zelda franchise. This one gets a bad rap. Do you know why? It's because it's very different than the first game. At this point in time, there was only the first Zelda game as a reference. Look, this came out a year later, 1987, okay? But the first two Mario games, they were basically the same game. The second game was a harder version of the first game. They tried to release it in America, and somebody at Nintendo America was like, oh my god, this game is too hard. It is not going to sell. It's going to kill Mario franchise because Americans can't play video games as good as Japanese. I don't know what the logic was, okay? They essentially took Doki Doki Panic and made it into Super Mario Bros. 2. We all know this. So maybe Nintendo wanted to avoid having the same Zelda game released twice. It's very different than the first game. It's a 2D game, except for the overworld, right? It kind of also has RPG elements, like there's different stats you can improve, like your health, your mana. I think this game is also very cryptic too. I did play this one. I played it on the Switch Online when it was released for the NES Online. People also say this is probably one of the hardest Zeldas. It is pretty hard, but it's definitely beatable if you're patient, And you also have to make sure that you build your character in a way that you're not going to screw yourself. It's kind of like Diablo 2, if you ever played that. You know, you need to get, I think you max health first or something, or max your sword power, I forget. But you got to build in a way to make it easy on yourself. For Zelda 2, I actually really like this game. I like harder NES games. I like hard games in general. I like the challenge of it. So I've been playing games a long time. It's nice when the developers throw a game at me that makes me sweat a little bit. And I do like the kind of RPG overworld elements they got going on here. It's pretty neat. This is the one thing I don't like, okay? When the game starts, they send you into like these 3 different caves and you have to like guess which one of them you have to go through first. And you don't even have a light yet. You have to go through the cave to get the light. I don't like going through the dark like that. I'm bumping into things, I can't see anything. I feel claustrophobic, oh my god. Let's put this somewhere on the list. I don't know if it's damn good, but I don't know if it's meh. I kind of want to put it somewhere in the middle, but if I had to choose between the two, it's gonna go there. As far as a game goes, it's pretty damn good. As far as the Zelda game goes, I'm gonna put it as meh. That being said, I'd still recommend people try this game, especially if you like hard games in general or a challenge. Just, you know, don't be afraid to look at a guide. Same with Zelda 1. Like, don't be afraid to pull up a guide if, like, you honestly don't know what to do, because a lot of this shit is just too cryptic. Just seeing the transition here blows my mind, because we went from this in 1987 to this in 1991. This is the Zelda game that this is the game that introduced me to Zelda, okay? Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Super Nintendo, 1991. A very early on game in the Super Nintendo library, mind you. Just hearing the little sound when you turn the game on, this right here. Oh, I love it. You already know you're in for a good time. It goes back to the original style that we all came to love in the first Zelda game, the top-down. But on top of that, the graphics are so much better. Is there some cryptic shit in this game? Yes, but it's not to a point where you won't be able to figure it out. Granted, when I was a kid, I could not figure this game out. I could only get through like the first 40% of it, and I got stuck. And there were so many interesting things around the map. As a kid, I was so curious about, like, there's a guy in the Dark World. There's just this area where there's a fish. There's a guy that's a fish, and he's just trapped behind some heavy rocks that you can't lift up. And I was never able to get there. And it turns out later on, you know, he's the blacksmith's partner, and if you save him, he helps reforge your sword. Stuff like that. Going back to as an adult, I was able to figure out all the things I couldn't see as a kid. For me, this is the ultimate nostalgia Zelda game. But it's also often rated very highly. I'm curious to know, like, let's say there's like somebody nowadays, like a teenager that's never played Link to the Past, and they grew up on Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, I don't know, you know, those Zelda games. So if they played this game now, would they rate it as highly as I would? Or do we always have like a bias towards our first Zelda game? Because I feel like that might have something to do with how people rank their lists. But, you know, this also introduced so much to the franchise too. Like 2 worlds you go between. This game has like 10 dungeons at least, tons of secrets, and you can really just explore and like find things. Like even like right here in this part, like if you go to this tombstone, right, you kick it back, it creates a hole that leads to a secret. There's secrets everywhere in this game. I love stuff like that. You don't want the things you need to do to beat the game to be too cryptic, but like bonus stuff, that's okay if it's cryptic, because then when you find out how to get something, it's like, oh my god, this is something that was a secret and I figured it out. That's amazing. So yeah, Link to the Past, I think I've said my piece about this game. I love this game. And you know, actually, I will add on to that. People love this game so much, and it has such a great foundation of gameplay. It's been breathed new life into the series, into this game, through the randomizer. So there's a whole thing now where everything in the game is randomized, and it's not too hard to figure out. Like, I don't know, it would seem like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, they also have randomizers, but it seems like it would be a lot of time just getting between places. This game, you can zip around and, you know, check all the spots pretty quick. You know, you could beat it in like a couple hours. You could boot up a randomized game of Legend of Zelda Link to the Past and still have a lot of fun and experience new things. All that being said, it's obvious. It's going to God tier. Link's Awakening, the first mobile Zelda game. You played it on the Game Boy, 1993. Of course, it was kind of black and white. They did re-release it for the Game Boy Color though, and everything was colorful, but this was the first version. And it was a very weird Zelda game. There's a lot of silly things in this game, but it's not a bad thing. It was funny. But yeah, it has the same kind of format as Link to the Past. Look, it's got this bear. This is actually one fun part of this game, is that you go on this big, long quest of trading things. Like, you get a pineapple from this guy, and you go give the pineapple to somebody else, and they give you something, and you keep trading things until you get the ultimate weapon, like 20 trades later. Also, they re-released this game for Nintendo Switch a couple years ago. It's obviously, they remade the whole game to look like a Switch game. So, if you ever wanted to play Link's Awakening, I'd recommend on that one as the go-to version. And I think this game inspired a lot of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and like the weirdness and silliness in those games. Without this game, you probably wouldn't have had the hand in the toilet, maybe. You guys know what I'm talking about. You know what was in this game is the shop guy. Let me look this up. In this game, you need a bow and arrow to beat the game, right? But the bow and arrow costs like over 900 rupees. If you want to farm that much, it's going to take a lot of hard work and dedication, right? And in the words of one wise woman, she once said, "Ain't nobody got time for that." What do? You kind of trick the shopkeeper to turn around and just walk out the door. Guess what? You got it for free. Are you proud of yourself? Well, you got a free shovel. You stole it. Turns out, if you steal an item from the shop, guess what? Everybody in the game no longer calls you by your name. They call you by the name Thief. Yeah, see? Thief. I'm sure like this whole thing added to the game helped teach a lot of kids not to steal. Stealing was wrong. I mean, if that didn't teach you, then this definitely would. You go back to the shop. I wasn't kidding when I said you'd pay. Now you'll pay the ultimate price. Yes, he literally kills you for stealing a shovel. For this, I'm gonna say it's damn good. Is it God tier though? It might be God tier. You know what? Can somebody back me up on this? Link's Awakening might be a God tier Zelda game. For a game that came out in 1993, being this creative, it's fantastic. Speaking of great and fantastic games, let's move on to the next one. Then again, I'm comparing Link's Awakening to Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. Hold on a second. Sorry, I can't do this. Oh, listen to this intro. There you go. When you booted this one up, you knew you were gonna be in for a big adventure here, right? Ocarina of Time, holy crap. This is a game that I wouldn't mind watching as a kid. You know, I just have my friend play. I'd be like, yeah, let's play Ocarina of Time. We'd pass the controller back and forth in like a sleepover or something. I think the intro is a little bit slow. That's my only criticism of the game. But at the same time, you're introducing a player to the whole world of a 3D Zelda, right? Like nobody's played 3D Zelda before. How do you get them the preparation they need to play a game like this? And there's Ganondorf. Oh yeah, this is also, no, Ganondorf was never a character, right? It was always Ganon until this game. So this is the first game that introduces Ganon as a man. One thing I like about, there's many things I like about Ocarina of Time, but one thing I really like is that they added so much content to this game. Like how many dungeons are there? You got the 3 kid dungeons, right? The tree, the Dodongo Cavern, which is amazing, and then inside Jabu Jabu's belly, which is kind of creepy. This guy was literally taken from Link's Awakening. If you remember, he was based off of Mario. Yeah, here, see? And I guess she kind of looks like the girl on the farm, but so yeah, you can see Ocarina of Time borrowed a lot Link's Awakening. It's actually pretty dark for a kid's game too. I played this game when I was 7 or 8. I'm probably 8 or 9, I forget, around that age, but you know, the transition to seeing the world be destroyed, like yeah, that did happen in Link to the Past. The whole world got destroyed, but you really see it in Ocarina of Time. Like you go from being in a Hyrule town where everyone's together and having a good time and buying stuff and selling things and making jokes, and then you go forward 7 years and they're all f***ing zombies. Not only that, they're zombies that jump on your back and suck your brains out. By the way, at the end of the kid cycle, you can actually go into one of the back alleys and talk to a guard that was dying or is dying or something. If you talk to him, I think, you try to talk to him again, he doesn't talk, he just kind of lays there. Ocarina of Time is so charming, like everything else had so much personality. That's what I like. I like when the game developers put a lot of attention to detail. If they rush a game out, you could tell, and I hate that, you know what I mean? Like, remember when we streamed Pokemon, Violet and Scarlet? Like, where was the care in that game? It was just like, oh, hey, you know, we gotta get this out before Christmas or whatever it was. So here it is. You couldn't even go inside houses. That's what I want. Make less houses, but you can go inside them. If I can't go inside somebody's house, break their pottery, and steal their money, am I even playing a game? Which, by the way, I don't think this game didn't start that. I think that was Link to the Past, but that's always something funny about Zelda, you know? It's just like perfectly acceptable for this kid to go into people's homes and destroy things and rob them. In Link's Awakening, they teach you not to steal, but in every other Zelda game, that's all you do is you steal. Yeah, then you go to become an adult and you got all these other dungeons that you can go to. The world gets harder. It's like, oh man, you really have to save the world, you know? You go around the map. And even though, you know, you look at this, when I was a kid, and I'm looking at it now, it seems like a really big world, but it's not. It's not really that big. It's just designed in a way where it feels big. Any other big moments in Ocarina of Time? The introduction of Redeads, super scary. The day-night cycle, that was pretty cool, except it was annoying when you wanted to get into Hyrule Castle and the stupid drawbridge would go up and you had to wait if you didn't have the song to change the time. Yeah, the owl. Okay, this is one thing that was holding Ocarina of Time back a little bit, especially because he put, do you want to hear this again? And the default option is yes. So of course, I'm mashing the A button because I don't want to hear what this stupid bird is telling me. Birds can't even think. He's just repeating what somebody else said, right? So I'm hitting yes. I don't care what you're saying. And then all of a sudden, you're asking me if I want to hear this again, and you're going to make the default option yes? I guess they knew I wouldn't be paying attention if I did that, huh? And the items in this game are really cool too. Like the hook shot in 3 dimensions was really cool. Like I was just thinking of like when you go to the Gerudo town and you have to do like the stealth mission, but then you get locked up and you have to use the hook shot to bust yourself out of there. That was really cool. I could talk about this game all day, honestly. Maybe since I can do that, I'll play it sometime on stream. Maybe I'll have a special guest or something. But I gotta rank this thing. We're only 4 games in. So Ocarina of Time, where it belongs in my heart, right behind Link to the Past. And I know you're not gonna agree with me, but they're like interchangeable. They're both incredible games. They realized that Ocarina of Time was a darker Zelda game, right? They weren't afraid to touch on dark themes, even though it was a kid's game. They tripled down on that with Majora's Mask. This game, if you're having like a nice day, the sun's out, and you boot up Majora's Mask, somehow you'll find a way to feel sad after you're done playing it. Like from the guy in the toilet sticking his hand out, to the fact that everything in this game runs on a clock and goes in a cycle that you can't escape. It's like you're trapped, and the only thing waiting at the end of the cycle is the moon crashing in an apocalypse. Going back in time, repeating everything, it makes you feel like everything you're doing is kind of futile, right? Like you're trapped and you can't escape your own fate. But I guess in the end, you kind of do. I like the game theory for this one. People seem to suggest that they like to say Link died in the woods in the beginning of the game when he fell in the hole. And then this is all like his afterlife experience. Maybe it's like purgatory, you know? And then after he defeats Majora, he gets to pass on. And Majora's Mask was released like a year using assets from Ocarina of Time, right? It's a really well done game considering. Yeah, this gives me hope for Tears of the Kingdom, okay? They could do this in 1 year from Ocarina of Time. And the only reason they could is because they already had all the assets developed, right? They're using a lot of the Breath of the Wild assets and the game engine to make Tears of the Kingdom. So hopefully they were able to put a lot of development time into designing dungeons and secrets and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Majora's Mask, fantastic game. This game introduced, you know, the whole aspect of having different masks to give you powers or to let you access different things. So, of course, you got the 3 main masks, which were the Deku Kid. So, with him, you can skip across water, and you can fly if you go on those flower things. And then you got the Goron mask, which was really fun, rolling around at the speed of sound. And then there's this one, the Bremen mask. Yeah, you can get the chickens to follow you. I think the only purpose of this mask was to do this one part, and you get a piece of heart from it. But it's still funny. Like, I'm glad they added this. I would like to see another Zelda game where they bring back masks. That was a cool idea, and it seems like they really didn't... like, they had masks in Ocarina of Time, right? But they didn't really do anything besides the Mask of Truth. It would be cool to see them bring back like a sequel to Majora's Mask where there's different forms you could take on. I don't know what they would be because Zora's Gorons, that's like kind of the main thing, right? There's a lot of masks that had really niche uses. Yeah, like remember the one that lets you do like the weird dance, the Japanese dance, and you had to dance in front of the 2 girls to get the piece of heart? If you get all the masks, you can trade them in to get the Fierce Deity mask, and that turns you into a giant god form of Link. But what kind of sucked about that is you can only use it on bosses. It's changed many people's lives, okay? I know my friend Anthony, he loves this game. It's changed his life. I think he even had a Majora's Mask themed wedding, okay? That's how much he loved this game. This is like a cult classic Zelda game. It just touches people in some ways. The one part of this game that was annoying though was the beaver race. Do you remember that? Where you had to go as the Zora and race the beavers in that river? That's pretty annoying because I think they cheated. Let's put Majora's Mask up on the list. This is a god tier game, but personally I put it behind Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time came first. It's got way better dungeons. Majora's Mask has a better story, better characters, better side quests, but it's, in my opinion, not a better game. It's close though. That's why it's up on the top. Next up. Excited about these. People sleep on these games. We got more portable handheld Zelda games, all right? We got Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, and Oracle of Ages. These games are made by Capcom too. Well, let's start with Seasons, even though these games kind of go together like hand in hand. And actually, if you want to get the true ending, you have to beat one of them. It doesn't matter which one you play first. And then you get a code or use a link cable to transfer your data to the other game, play that one through, and then you can unlock the last boss. Yeah, so this was on Game Boy Color, the first Game Boy Color Zelda, not counting the remake of Link's Awakening. This game's actually very good. I would say this game is very good. If you like Link's Awakening, this game, it's not really as silly as Link's Awakening, but it is much the same style. I'd say maybe like the dungeons are better, the world is more fun to explore, and it's in color. You can't write that off. There's also like animal friends, I think there's a kangaroo and like a rhino you could ride in the overworld and stuff. Kangaroo in a Zelda game. By the way, the kangaroo has boxing gloves. He beats the shit out of things. There's also a theme for these games too. So seasons, there's a goddess named Din, and she gets kidnapped. And in ages, it's Nairu, I think. There's pretty cool items in this one. Like there's a feather that lets you jump, which is pretty cool. Jumping has never really been a big thing in Zelda, at least in the old ones. Like in Ocarina of Time, Majora's, you just kind of like jump off cliffs and you jump automatically, you know. But in this one, you have a feather you can jump. I think they bring back those 2D sections like that were in Link's Awakening. There would be like these 2D sections where you'd have to do a little bit of platforming, and sometimes they even put Mario enemies in there as like a cameo appearance. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at, he's so nervous. It's like, oh my god, she's so hot. What if I step on her feet? Nice tan, by the way. And here's the other one. She's just the singer, though. You're just admiring her voice. Yeah, these games pretty good. If you like Link's Awakening, definitely check them out. I'm gonna put these... I think Ages is slightly better, but I'm gonna put these both as damn good. I wouldn't say they're meh. They're better than meh. We'll definitely have more going in the bottom category very soon, but this just goes to show, look how good the original Zelda games were. You know, this is over the course of like 15 years or so. The first 15 years of Zelda, everything was pretty damn good. So next we got the Four Swords Adventures. Okay, so this is on the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I've never played this one. I've always wanted to. Is it just a remake of Link to the Past? But it also has the ability to let you play the 4-player co-op Four Swords Adventure. I've never played this, but I'm curious about it. So it was kind of hard to do this back in the day. You know, you needed 4 Game Boys, a link cable to get between them all. That's the other reason, like, you remember the Mario Kart game on Game Boy Advance? It was very hard to do that multiplayer because you had to have, like, everybody had to have a Game Boy. Everybody had to have the link cable to connect all the Game Boys together. And everybody had to have the game, I think. Oh, here we go, Palace of the Four Swords. Okay, so it's just like one extra thing, or... He doesn't even have partners, though. It's just him. Oh, there we go. Now is that... Oh, he's fighting Dark Link, okay. Okay, so... That was another thing I forgot to mention about in Zelda 2, that at the end of the game is the first time Dark Link appears. The trick to this guy, he is very tough. He also made an appearance in Ocarina of Time in the Water Temple. The cheese strat for this is to just go to the left corner, duck down, and start stabbing, you know? Yeah, Dark Link is great. I also like that they add him as a skin in Smash Bros. Anyways, back to Four Swords. Yeah, I didn't play this game. I'd love to play this game. I really hope that they release it on Nintendo Switch Online because it's the perfect platform to let people play the game 4 players without having to have all the equipment and whatnot. So until that time, I'm gonna say didn't play it. Sorry. But a game I did play, though, was Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This game came out 2002, 2003. For the GameCube. A lot of people were disappointed in this game, okay? We all played Majora's Mask, right? A few years earlier. And I remember seeing the commercials of Link fighting Ganondorf, and it looked so realistic, and it looked very dark and gritty. But then what we actually got was Toon Link in this happy, bright adventure. Now at the time, people shit on these graphics because of they called it cell shading. It's also the art style they use in the portable DS games. But the one thing that's good about cell shading, I must give it credit, this game still looks good today. You look at a lot of old PlayStation games, and they're very pixelated, they got a lot of polygons, it's like, oh god, I can count them. But this looks very nice. It's nice to look at. It's aesthetically pleasing. Look at the water and all the colors. It's like a painting. The thing about this game is it's a very chill game, okay? You're not going through all this crazy stuff like you were in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. You got the big ocean, you got your ship, and let me tell you something. You got a bunch of islands scattered across the world. Some are bigger than others. Some of them have dungeons. Some of them have towns. But you know what you do have a lot of? Water. This game has a lot of water, okay? Now, I don't remember if there's a way you could warp around the map, but look, it takes a long time to get between places, okay? So this is a very chill game. Like, when you gotta go explore, you set up your boat. It's kind of like realistic in that sense, right? Like, if you were out on the seas in the real world, you'd have to set up your boat, you set your sails, and what do? You let the wind carry you. So you just sit back, relax, and then take it easy. But yeah, I guess occasionally there are some enemies that show up in the sea, or there could be a storm. That's exciting. But most of the time, you're just chilling. You're just sailing on the ocean. The combat in this game is pretty good too. I think I magically clicked on the right spot here. They added some cool like animations with Link, and you could like roll around people and swipe at the same time with your sword. That was pretty cool. You also get like buddies in some of the dungeons. Like you get to work with her in this one, and there's like the little sapling dude. Let's put Wind Waker on the list. I gotta think about this one. Is it meh? It might be meh, but it looks like the graphics might boost it up. I might adjust this. It's either at the bottom of damn good or at the top of meh. But for now, I'm gonna leave it there. I don't regret playing Wind Waker, you know what I mean? But would I recommend somebody to play it? Probably not, unless it was like the remastered version, because the remastered version, they made the ocean smaller, so you can get around quicker. All right, next up, we have another Four Swords game. This is the one for the GameCube. I don't know exactly what the deal is with this game. I didn't have this one. Yeah, so I think with this one, you had to hook your Game Boy up as a controller to play it, because here, like, you can see they went into the cave, but they're playing it on a Game Boy now. Like, what's the point? It seemed like they just wanted people to buy more Game Boys and buy more link cables. Now, I do have the Game Boy, and I do have the cable that hooks up to the GameCube, so maybe I could play this. But you know what I don't have? 3 other willing participants that will come over, bring a Game Boy Advance, and bring their own cable, and then play this game with me. Which is the same problem I had back in the day, you know? But it looks really fun. I've always liked the idea of having a multiplayer Zelda game. I'm gonna put it in I don't know, because I haven't played it. I do want to play the Four Swords games. It seems like this would be easier to play. I gotta do some research. Next up, we have the Minish Cap. I feel like I can't really rate this one, but it must say something if I pick up a game and I put like an hour or 2 into it, and then I just have no desire at all to keep playing it. But yeah, I did the first dungeon. I kind of get it. Like, it looks pretty good, right? It feels kind of slow. Like, Link moves kind of slow, don't you think? Maybe that's part of the reason I don't like it too much. I can't really put my finger on it. Okay, tell you what. After I beat Tears of the Kingdom, I will go back to Minish Cap and I will play it. Maybe it's good. I just need to give it more time. Next up, Twilight Princess. Now this was the dark, gritty Zelda game that the fans wanted for the GameCube. And this was released on the GameCube. It was also released on the Wii, which is how I played it. And I think there were some motion controls added. There's some pretty good facial graphics though. And this is a pretty good cutscene. Maybe this is the remaster? Oh no, this is the remaster. Okay, I was gonna say, this looks too good for a GameCube game. So this is the furry Zelda game. This is the one where you turn into a wolf and you also get your partner Midna, who's a pretty cool sidekick. Much cooler than Navi, if you ask me. You also play as adult Link throughout the whole game, so there's no time wasted being a kid. I remember liking this game a lot at the time. Would I recommend playing this one? I would say play this game if you are a big Zelda fan and you have a lot of free time. It's not high on the list of games you should play, but if you really like Zelda, this game will not disappoint you. Some people criticize this as being like too much like Ocarina of Time. They just kind of like rehashed it. Kind of like, remember when the new Star Wars came out and everybody said it was just like A New Hope. It was just a copy of it, but like darker and like more modernized. That's kind of what you get with Twilight Princess. But you get the wolf form too. Oh look, you even howl and stuff using an ocarina. That's kind of cringe. Let's put Twilight Princess on the list. I'm gonna put it at the top of meh. It's not damn good. I think Wind Waker's probably better though, so I'm gonna put it there. It came to Switch. The Wii U control, if it came to Switch, the Wii U controls look frustrating for it. Yeah, I've heard complaints about the Wii U controls. Like, I don't know. The Wii U in general is just kind of like a weird console. And there's a reason it didn't sell that well. Part of that was because of the naming too. I heard like there was a lot of confusion with people thinking like, oh well, we already have a Wii. Why would we get a Wii U? It also sounds like an ambulance. Like, oh my god, it's an emergency. This console's not selling. Our company's doing horribly. Speaking of doing horribly, we got 2 handheld Zelda games, the Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. I'll tell you right now, I haven't played Spirit Tracks, so that's where it's going. I do want to play it because I did like Phantom Hourglass, but I only played it once and it was a long time ago. And oh my god, this looks like RuneScape. This is on the DS, not the 3DS. I don't remember if the DS... I don't think the DS has an analog stick, right? I'm pretty sure it has the D-pad. This looks pretty good for a handheld game, though, right? Like, it's very much in the style of Wind Waker. I remember it being fun. It was a good game to play on the go. I will put this below Adventures Link and meh. All right, we've come to the last 3. I'm going to skip Skyward Sword for a second, and I'm going to go to Link Between Worlds. Now this game, this might be loud, let me see. You can see they're going for the nostalgia factor here. I love this game. This is probably one of my, I love Link to the Past, so obviously, but this is a fantastic Zelda game for anybody that likes Link to the Past. You essentially get the light and the dark world back. It's the same kind of overworld. I think it's exactly the same. Yeah, I think it's exactly the same overworld. It is, as the other game. This was for the 3DS, so the graphics are pretty up there. You could also play it in 3D if you wanted to, which I never really liked that feature too much. I was too afraid I was gonna go blind or need glasses if I used the 3D feature. The gimmick with this game was that you could pretty much do anything in any order. To get items, you didn't actually get them in the dungeon, you rented them from this guy. So like you would go to him, get the items you needed, and then you'd go to the dungeon, right? You could also do this thing with like walking through on the walls and stuff, which is kind of neat. So lots of gimmicks, very similar to Link to the Past. Graphics are good, story is good. It's also kind of funny too. Like if you play this game, it's got some humor in it, and it's got a lot of charm. So I would put this one. I've only played it once or twice though. I would play it again though. It was damn good, and I'd actually put it. It's definitely above these two. As far as the game goes, I think it's above the original Zelda, but I don't know if it's above Link's Awakening. You know, I'm gonna say it's there. I'm gonna say it's pretty damn good. I recommend it. I don't know how expensive it is or how hard it is to get nowadays. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for, Skyward Sword. I played this one on the good old Wii, and let me tell you something. They hyped the shit out of this game with the motion controls and everything. You remember Miyamoto being on the stage trying to throw a bomb or something? Trying to do something and then like it didn't work and they all looked horrible. And then Nintendo stopped doing live events and only did Nintendo Direct after that. It was not a good look. And you know what else wasn't a good look? Skyward Sword. Let me tell you, this game is one of the most annoying, frustrating, wasting my time games I've ever seen. I don't know who thought of this game, the pacing of it. It has a really good story. Yeah, that is one thing I will concede. The story in this game is really good. You're right, Moose. But to experience that story, you have to go through such an ordeal. It's like, I'm walking around the world, and what is this? It's a blue rupee. Wow, it's a blue rupee. The game is telling me this. It's worth 5 rupees. It's worth 5 green rupees. You could use it at a shop. Thanks, game. Now I know what a blue rupee is. And I'm not a goldfish, so you don't have to remind me this every time I turn the game on. But what's that? I turn the game on the next day, and I find a blue rupee, and you're gonna tell me what it is again? Really? The game does it with every single thing you pick up. Anything you find in this game, it gives you a short explanation and tells you what it is. And it happens every time, if I'm remembering right, it happens every time you turn the game off and turn the game back on. Like, even if you save, even if I'm about to fight Ganon, if I want to walk outside Ganon's castle and pick up a bush and find a red rupee, it's gonna tell me what it is. Like, I don't know by this point. Not only that, then you got the stamina gauge, so I can't just run. Then I gotta like walk a little bit, I'm wasting, and I feel like I'm going slow. But then I can run again. Like, why not just have one speed? It worked in Ocarina, it worked in Majora's Mask. You know, I know it's a thing, it's different in Breath of the Wild. It works a little better there, right? This game, it just doesn't feel good. I do like the flying sections though, those are pretty fun. I think this is the first Zelda game you can really fly around, which is pretty neat. The other problem I have with this game is the backtracking. You have to go back to zones you've already completed many times. And you know, it's like, I've been there. You're just lazy. You don't want to create new worlds. At least in Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past, they're like different versions of the old world. They've gone through some shit. They've changed. There's cataclysm. You know, there's new enemies. In this one, I'm just going back to do something that I need to do. It's the same place. I've been there. I've done all the things. And then finally, the bosses, okay? The bosses are fine. But what's not fine about them is I don't want to fight this same boss. Oh, no, it sounds like I'm just complaining, because I am. I don't want to fight this same boss 3 times. Where is he? Where's the big the toad boss? Like, yeah, and also this desert ship dungeon was cool. Like, the dungeons are pretty cool. I will concede that. But everything in between the dungeons and the last boss, no. All right, here he is. This guy. 3 times! How many times do I gotta fight this guy? How many times? Look at him. I mean, if I was a kid, that'd probably be very scary, but what's his name? The Imprisoned. It's not even that scary. Devin. Dave from accounting. Oh my god, it's Dave from accounting! Anyway, Skyward Sword, even just looking at this game gave me a headache. That's where it belongs. That's where it stays. The only Zelda game on my list to receive a trash rating. How pathetic. Finally, we're going to look at Breath of the Wild. This is the most recent Zelda game. Wow, look at the graphics though. I will say, this game looks fantastic. I haven't played this game in a long time, and I don't want to go back to it because the new game's coming out. I'm gonna get bored of Zelda. Look, I get it, okay? I get it, Nintendo. Skyrim was a cool game. Skyrim was actually an amazing game. When Skyrim came out, it was like a ridiculously good PC game. It had everything. It was a big world, right? Like this, but it had lots of things in the world to do. And everything was kind of designed in a way with care and like thought. With Breath of the Wild, they wanted to run with the idea of, hey, let's make a Zelda game that's kind of in a Skyrim type of map. But you know, the problem with that is it takes a lot of time to make a world that big. And they added all these shrines and things, but what they didn't have time to do was really fill out the world and make it feel like a Zelda game. I mean, look at the size of the Skyward Sword map compared to Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Field. Like, it's like multiple times larger. And even Hyrule Field, you know, Hyrule Field is pretty cool in Ocarina of Time. It has holes in there and secrets and enemies. It has the ranch. It has different places. And it's got charm. But that's what Breath of the Wild doesn't have. Like, this is cool. I like the combat system. I like the crafting system. All this stuff is cool. But the world was missing. and it was missing like the characters that we had in Majora's Mask, or the places, you know, the secrets. People say the design of Hyrule Castle in this game is really cool. I agree with that too. Like, there's some places that are really cool. But overall, I don't know if they just chose this plot line just to kind of give it an excuse that the world feels so empty, but like, you know, they say, oh, it's like the apocalypse, or, you know, Ganon came and destroyed everything. Also, I haven't seen the end of the game, so no spoilers, please. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even remember. But you could imagine, it's like Link kills bad guy, Link wins, everyone happy, yay. You know, something like that. Yeah, I play Zelda games for like the puzzles, the characters, the exploration. And this game did have exploration, but like, what were you exploring to find? You were exploring to find these little seed guys in the ground? Is that what it's about? Because I didn't do that. There was almost 1,000 of them, right? I'm not gonna find all those guys. What, are you crazy? I mean, I could have printed out a map on the internet and like checked them all off, but like, what's the point? So Breath of the Wild, as great of an effort as it was, it pains me to do this, but I'm actually gonna put it right here. Hot take, I think Zelda 2 is better than Breath of the Wild, apparently, as far as, you know, having fun. I had more fun playing The Adventures of Link than I did in Breath of the Wild. Worst part of the game is how the weapons break. I know, right? Like, I get it, like, they didn't want you to have like an super OP weapon that you never took off, but at the same time, if you find a really good weapon, it's gonna suck because you don't want to use it because it's gonna break if you use it, right? Thanks for making it to the end of my Zelda tier list. Now I want to know what you thought of it. What would you have ranked differently? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to play the new Zelda game along with me, come check out my live stream with the link on screen now.